And we're live. What's going on, everyone? It's Talks with Kenny. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. Like the video on your way in. I really helps out with the videos to get my message out there, to get my videos more notoriety. So I'm gonna start, asking you guys to like the video if you find it valuable. If not, continue watching, and I hope eventually I earned your like. So for today, we're gonna talk about how on episode 34 of Live with Kenny, welcome. I want to talk about how Western culture is kind of hurting itself, right? And as you've seen from, we're going to talk about Elon Musk, we're going to talk about immigration, we're going to talk about how our culture glorifies dysfunction, and then the main event will be, can liberalism survive Marxist wokeism? And pretty much we're going to outline how our culture got this way in the first place. And one of the ways I believe that the starting point of the decaying of our culture is this idea of multiculturalism, where you can have a bunch of cultures in one country and not expect a battle of influence. And that's what's currently going on. That's what wokeism is, essentially, is that, all cultures are equal, when that is not the case, right? If you see in American culture, I honestly believe why a lot of this diversity and inclusion stuff don't work is because we don't have a shared foundation any longer. Now we got people bickering against, I'm white, you're black, I'm Hispanic, I'm this. I need a black agenda, I need a white agenda, I need an Asian agenda. Everyone's looking out for themselves, and it becomes tribal, right? Abraham Lincoln already gave us a warning: a house divided cannot stand. And we're all Americans. Technically, we all have a shared loyalty, a shared interest in the success of America. But we're not acting like that. We're acting very selfishly. We're cutting our nose to spite our face, and that is what's going on in Western culture. We're letting countries like China lambast us because they notice the weakness. They notice that we care too much. And I think that's a big point that I think Elon Musk is going to highlight to us in this video. And I want to focus on this clip because I believe Americans, in a way, we need to be a little bit like Elon in this clip. I'm only going to give it a minute, and then I'll move on to the next segment that I had going on. But I really want to hone in on this attitude that Elon has. And I think as Americans, we need to adopt this. We need to be unapologetically American, unapologetically patriotic. And yes, our country has its flaws, but what country don't have its flaws? Doesn't mean you give up on it. Doesn't mean you throw the baby with the bathwater. America has done a lot of great things in this world, and it will continue to do so in the future, but it's up to us to maintain that and push it forward. You can't just quit on it. And this is one of the other ways that Western cultures hurt itself. It doesn't respect its lineage. It doesn't respect its history. It doesn't take pride in being Americans. I think we're one of the only countries where we hate ourselves. We hate our history. We're not proud of our where we came from and how we established our country, when you got people who are proud coming from China. A communist, socialist, authoritarian government that monitors its people 24/7, that censor people, ridicule people, put them in education camps. People are proud to call themselves, I'm from China. But Western culture, Western civilization, such as the United States and the UK, people are saddened. People are not proud of being a part of the UK, maybe for obvious reasons, but every culture has its flaws. If you look through all human history, every country has some skeletons in their closet. Every country has done something bad in the means of putting itself first. But for some reason, us, because we had the ideal that all men are created equal, and that we fell short of that ideal, this is why we're getting chastised. This is what justifies people condemning self-destroying their own country because, slavery existed in the country before. And I always say this: the only way you can criticize Western culture is to put it up against perfection. But if you put it up against any other culture, it's comparable. Yet we accept people having pride in other countries, but we can't have pride in ourselves. This is the kind of attitude I think Americans need to run with, that Elon's about to show in this interview. Let's get into it.
Well, we'll do Israel in just a moment.
And I have no problem being hated, by the way.
I hear
Hate
you.
away.
Well,
I think
you
it's a
don't
real
care.
weakness to want to be liked. A real weakness. And I do not have that.
The government's going to give you money for rockets. where people are going to get into the cars, they need to ultimately decide that you are, they don't have to decide that they love you, but that you are ultimately a decent and good human being.
Yes, I mean, I think I am, but I'm certainly not going to do some sort of tap dance to prove to people that I am. So I will certainly not pander. And Jonathan, like, the only reason I'm here is because you are.
So that's why I wanted to highlight is that you don't want to like this is the expectation that a lot of Westerners from the UK, America, they have this perception that they need to pander to people. They need to like tap dance and prove to people that, oh, you're not what do they call it, xenophobic or racist or all this other nonsense. This is the idea that there's something inherently bad with being a Westerner, to being proud. Like a culture like this can't stand if people are not willing to defend it. Like this is a weakness. This need to be liked by everyone. I call this out in black people all the time. Why you need the validation of white people? Who cares if a white person don't like you or Asian person don't like you? Like, why you seek their validation so much? Why does a white person need to acknowledge their racism? Like, it's putting so much power in other people's hands, and this is why our country is crumbling now. We care about other people more than we care about our own citizenry. We're giving more benefits and more entitlements and benefits to migrants than their own homeless citizens in the very country that they stay in. People who are paying taxes. Migrants are getting majority of those programs. Craziness. And this is what happens when you have a self-flagellating culture that can't be proud of itself. Right? And this is another problem I think Western culture suffers from as well. And I'm going to let Elon articulate. Oh, or whatever. I'll just play from here.
Gotten to where it's gotten with no advertising at all.
I understand that.
Tesla currently sells twice as much in terms of electric vehicles as the rest of electric car makers in the United States combined. Tesla has done more to help the environment than all other companies combined. It would be fair to say that, therefore, as a leader of the company, I've done more for the environment than everyone else, and any single human on Earth.
And this is what America can do. America, like, if you look at the Nobel Peace Prize, who has the most Nobel Peace Prize? America. America produced the most Nobel Peace Prize. I think we're the one who leads innovation and research and development. We got one of the best universities still, even though our public education is on the decline. We have done a lot. And it seems like on the world stage, they're treating us just like any other country. Like we don't deserve respect. And I blame this on Biden. Who knows? Who knows what we can blame it on? But it's us defeating ourselves. Right? We're pushing all this wokeism. We let all these loud minority people hijack the branding, the imagery of what it means to be an American, a Westerner. Now you got other countries looking at Americans sideways because they're like, yo, are these people believe that men can be women and women can be men? These people out here aborting their kids up till birth, where in Europe, the norm is 15 weeks. In Europe, if you look at Europe, their abortion, after 15 weeks, there's no abortion. But over here, we're more radical than Europe when it comes to abortion. Right? And it's because we allow these people who essentially subverted what it means to be American and made it so people shouldn't be proud of being that. They think being American is evil. Being a Westerner is evil. I digress, man. I honestly think we need to get over this.
How do you feel about that? No,
How do I feel about that?
Yeah, no, I'm asking you personally how you feel about that, because this goes. We're talking about power and influence, and
I'm saying what I care about is the reality of goodness, not the perception of it. And what I see all over the place is people who care about looking good while doing evil.
And this is where we're falling into in our culture, right? We assume, if it's a weaker power, they're innocent. No. Let's look at the reality. What's the reality of what people are doing? The countries that get the most criticisms are the countries that actually doing more for the global, like for the world, essentially, right? And your immigration is one of the biggest talking points that I have about this. is that everyone wants to come to the UK, America. We're the most accepting, but we get criticized the most. Imagine that. Look at Finland. Finland is a what? Like 95% Finnish. Sorry. Japan barely accept any immigrants. Homogenous cultures. No one calls them out for being, oh my God, look at this xenophobic, closed borders. I mean, they can try, but those countries are unapologetically, nah, we ain't accepting people like that. We don't have the resources. We put our own before we put outsiders. And America, we have such open borders. Like we have a more open policy, immigration policy than any country in the world, where if someone illegally breaks into the United States and have a kid there, that kid is legitimate under our eyes. No other country do that from what I can understand. No other country does that. So we're going to talk about immigration and how immigration plays a part into how America, Western civilization, kind of destroys itself in a way, because you're importing people who do not want necessarily to conform to the values and traditions that Americas have already established. Because when you go into somebody's house, you assimilate to their rules, to their way of life. Hey, no shoes in the house. Shoes must be off at the door. You will follow the rules, right? Tell me how we are expected to bring in people who can't even respect our laws. Hey, do not come in here illegally. They come here illegally. And instead of kicking them out, instead of making them suffer a consequence, we let them stay. And it creates a perpetual incentive for people to continue coming in this country illegally, right? What's the point of doing it the correct way when you're rewarding bad behavior? It's just like parenting. If your kids does something bad and you do not punish them, effectively you rewarded them for doing the action. It's the same thing with illegal mass migration, illegal immigration. But let me show you that this video is about kind of how liberalism can be blamed for a lot of the ills that Western society is facing currently. In a way, liberals used to be very anti-immigration because they were very union, they cater to the unions. And when back then in 1995, Bill Clinton, you can look it up, he was like, hey, we need restricted immigration because immigration hurts the working class. Facts. That's a fact. See, that's when Democrats used to make sense. Now they don't make any sense no more. They want mass immigration because now they realize, oh, a lot of these people are how you say it? They lean towards us. They're slanted in our favor. And when they have kids, they'll be Democratic voters. This is why we want mass immigration. And then they pretend that, oh, we're doing the world a service by taking these mass groups of people into our country because we have the resources. We have streets made out of milk and honey. And this is the responsibility of first world countries to help the world. This globalist agenda. Here's a problem that a lot of globalists will not point out about mass immigration. And in this video, this is the perfect illustration of how immigration doesn't actually necessarily solve any of the problems that's facing the world at a global stage. Let's get into the video.
Some people say that mass immigration into the United States can help reduce world poverty. Is that true? Well, no, it's not. And let me show you why. This gumball represents the 1 million legal immigrants that the United States has taken every year on average since 1990. Now, who in the world deserves our humanitarian compassion? The World Bank has one measure of the desperately poor of the world. They make less than $2 a day. And how many people make less than $2 a day in the world? We'll start with Africa. In Africa alone, there are 650 million people who make less than $2 a day. 650 million. And in India...
No. Let's stop right there. In Africa, the continent of Africa, there's 650 million people who makes, what, $2 an hour? You see why these people want to migrate into the United States. Let me ask you a question. If all those people that makes $2 an hour, all 650 million of them, all mass migrate, to United States or England, what happens to the United States? It stops being the United States. You essentially imported Africa into the U.S. and the U.S. stops being the U.S. And then you get called a racist because you mention it, and they want to say, oh, you believe in the replacement theory. Yeah, those Africans are going to replace me too. I'm born in this country. I raised all my life, 27 years of my life, all spent in this country. Born and raised in American culture. Close to the culture. We all watched what? Boys World. I don't know. I forget the shows already. All the American shows, American Dad, Family Guy. We all know what that is. But you import 650 million Africans and they bring them over here. You essentially, their culture overwhelms and they win because it's representative. It's by millions. They can essentially replace the entire United States with just them. So how is mass immigration actually going to help them? Because they're bringing in their skills they don't have much skills that could build up this country and maintain America as a world power. Essentially, the United States will become another Africa if you allow all 650 million of those people to import in here. This is why assimilation matters. This is why migration must be controlled. This is why you must have border security. Because you ain't gonna let just anybody walk into your house. It should be the same way with your country. Because at the end of the day, these people can destroy what you already built in your country. And this is one of the biggest arguments against immigration, mass immigration, why a lot of nationalists, populists, this is why populism is becoming popular. This is why populism is taking over. Because the people, we the people are starting to realize that our leadership class is not caring about the common good of its people, of its average citizen. So let's get back into the video because this highlights how looking good is not actually being good. Like these people want to be like, oh, look how sympathetic I am. I gave a homeless man $100. Oh, look how sympathetic I am. I stand for migrants coming through the border. Okay, how are we going to take care of them? How are they going to provide for themselves? They're going to be a drain on the system if they don't have adequate skills that can give them a livable wage. Oh, you want us to raise minimum wage? Then you increase inflation. Then you increase cost. Right? It's this liberal idea of people should not face consequences for their poor choices or their abilities. That's what it is. Personal responsibility. Liberals are anti-personal responsibility. And you're going to see how they're anti-personal responsibility. Hey, we're here to help. No, we have finite resources. We do not have unlimited resources. There's a quote that I always tell myself. The human desire is infinite, but your resources are finite. You want to do a lot of things, but you're limited in what you're actually capable of doing. And this is the reality that a lot of liberals do not want to come to terms with. And conservatives are very based in reality. Hey, I can't do everything. I can't save everyone. But the most I can do is not to be a burden on someone else. If every country thought, this is why I'm a nationalist. This is why I'm not a globalist. If every country thought, hey, I'm gonna do my best within my abilities to take care of myself, my community, and my people, and in those countries' leadership class worry about the best interests of their country, we'll make the world a better place. We'll reduce world poverty. Not, oh, America and the UK, they had to take in all these poor immigrants and essentially put them on welfare all their lives because they don't have the ability to actually maintain themselves, most of them anyway. Right? But you'll see how all mass immigration will do is destroy our country, destroy any country. All right, let's get back into the video. I rambled a little bit. My bad, guys. Let's get back.
India, another 890 million people.
890.
China adds another 480 million people, making less than $2 a day. And unfortunately, the rest of Asia has a heartbreaking 810 million people who the World Bank says make less than $2 a day. And finally, there's 105 million of Latin.
Hey, look. This is what happens when you don't live in reality. This is the reality. I don't care how big a GDP that America has. We don't have enough taxpayers to pay and save almost 1 billion people. How many people is on the earth? Globalist? 11 billion people, I think. And and you want us to mass immigrate all these people. This is how Western culture destroys itself. Because we're doing impractical things to feel good. Remember the Elon clip I just said? People are more worried about looking good than the reality of goodness. The reality is, if we mass immigrate all these people, they overwhelm our system, our resources go to zero, then we can't take care of nobody. And they'll still be poor people. Okay, don't believe me? Let's continue. This is the best illustration of mass immigration. If someone gets on your butt about immigration, we should be so compassionate for migrants. Show them this video. 6 minutes. 6 minutes of pure, perfect illustration of the problems with mass immigration and how it does not solve anything. It just brings in more problems in reality. Let's get back into the video.
America's population that are desperately poor. All told, the World Bank says there are 3 billion people in the world. 3 billion people who are desperately poor, making less than $2 a day. That's 3,000 gumballs. And every year, we take 1 million and suggest that we've somehow made a humanitarian difference. Of course,
laughable. That's laughable. All these liberals, oh my God, open borders. Oh, we got to take all these people need refugees. All these people need help. And that's the dent. Look at the cup. That's the dent we make. 1 million migrants a year on average. And that's legally. We don't know how many people illegally comes over the border. So imagine, this is why you need border. This is why you need controlled migration into your country. Because imagine if maybe 10% of those people decide, hey, the United States just let anyone walk into their borders. They don't really kick people out of their country. We can go in there and they're supposed to take care of us. Let's go. Let's make the trip. And you see why people do it. It's not a smart thing to do. It may not feel good to say, hey, we can't take care of everybody. We can't save everybody. It don't feel good to say that. But that's the reality. We have to be practical. I'm going to repeat myself again. Human desire is infinite, but your resources are finite. That is a rule that should be practiced in politics, because these people keep thinking, because this is the modern monetary theory, liberals and their economic theories. They think they can print money out of thin air, and as long as the government's the one issuing it, it's okay. Look at Argentina. Argentina just hired a libertarian to gut the government. That's what happens when you let a government go out of control. It'll bankrupt your country. Argentina is the perfect example. If you want to look at history of bad monetary policy, look at the history of Argentina. If not, I'll probably do my next live stream or Inconvenient Truth about Argentina, just to demonstrate how we can easily get into that pathway. The only thing saving us right now is that we're the world's reserve currency. I digress. Let's get back into the video.
we don't pull our immigrants from these desperately poor populations, do we? These people are too poor, too sick, too disconnected to make it here as immigrants.
Imagine.
We tend to pull our immigrants out of the better off poor of the world. And Mexico tends to define the type of immigrant that we bring here because the plurality of people come from Mexico. And Mexico is poor. How many people in the world live in countries that have average incomes lower than that of Mexico? And the World Bank tells us that that number is these 3 billion plus another 2.6 billion people. 5.6 billion people in the world who live in countries with average incomes below that of Mexico. That's 5,600 gumballs. And so,
well, you guys feel that? That's called reality. And a lot of liberals need to see this video. Bro, this is what you're advocating for. Hey, let's take everyone in. We can save everybody and you keep saving. Oh, more people are coming? Imagine if a liberal said, I want to change the world. We need to take open borders. Okay, you first. We start with you first. All the homeless people are going to go in your house and you got to take care of them. We all know the average income in America is $50,000. How many people you can take care of on a $50,000 a year salary? maybe 2 people, 3 people. If you cut your spending, you manage your budget. But if I just keep every day, I just keep bringing one new homeless person into your house, so you have to go take care of them. Eventually, you're gonna lose the house because there's too much people using your water, too much people using your electricity, too much mouths to feed, right? They're using too much of your resources. You don't make enough money to handle that burden. So you have 2 choices. Either I make more money or I start kicking people out. Right? People can understand my argument in that small scale when I put them on the hook for taking care of other people. But for some reason, when you scale it up to a country, people feel so disconnected from the problem that they don't actually understand the reality of what they're advocating for. This is the reality.
So what is it that the elites are telling us? They're telling us that when we take this 1 million immigrants, that we somehow or another are tackling world poverty. And we have to do it regardless of the effect on our unemployed, the working poor, the most vulnerable members of our society, regardless of the effect on our natural resources. Even if we went by the most radical proposals in Washington, which are to actually double our immigration to 2 million a year, which would totally overwhelm our physical, natural, and social infrastructures, we couldn't make a noticeable difference. And we may be really hurting the impoverished people of the world because the million that we do take are among the most energetic, often the better educated, certainly the most dissatisfied people that if they did not immigrate would be the agents for change.
So I understand his argument, and it's a good argument that we have. Remember I said personal responsibility, and you scaled that. This is why I'm a nationalist. If every nation said, hey, how can we make our situation better so the best and brightest people of our country, of our citizenry does not leave and go migrate to somewhere else, right? China is the best example of this. If China became more capitalistic, would it keep more of its Chinese people in its country? Probably. And what happened? As Americans, we'll lose out on those skilled workers, right? A lot of those, like I already just told you the stats. The race of the group of people with the highest income on average is Asian Americans. So imagine if where all the Asian Americans come from, instead of migrating out, they stay in their country, fight for their country, change their country for the better, and those countries become comparable to the United States. No Asian would leave China. No Asian would leave Japan, Taiwan, because they say, hey, we have it as just as good as here than in America. We have the same amount of freedoms than America. There's no reason to leave. And we, as Americans, and I'm being honest, we lose out on that talent. Because the reason why we're still the top when it comes to research, development, Nobel Peace Prize, is because we get a lot of Asian Americans in our top Ivy League schools. I'm being real here. That's the reality. And what he's saying is, the fact that we have that door open, we take the very people that could have done something about the situation. The reality is, this is a big problem. World poverty is a big problem that cannot be solved with half-baked solutions. We're only treating the symptoms of the problem. The core issue of the problem is the countries themselves have to create and facilitate a better environment where their people can prosper in that environment without looking out for another nation to do it. That's the reality of mass immigration. It's only treating the symptoms of world poverty. It's not treating the problem. But I digress.
To improve the lot of all the people in these countries. The true heroes in the global humanitarian field are the people in these countries who have the wherewithal to immigrate to another country, but instead stay in their countries, to apply their skills to help their fellow countrymen. Unfortunately, our immigration system tends to entice these very type of people to abandon their countrymen. The impossibility of making even a dent is actually worse than it looks here. Because last year, when we took 1 million immigrants, these countries added, births over deaths, 80 million more people into the impoverished population. And this year, Congress is bringing in 1 million legal immigrants. And this year, according to the United Nations, these countries are expected to add another 80 million people. And next year, you can be quite sure that Congress, unless stopped by the American voters, will bring in another million immigrants. And these countries, unfortunately, will be adding another 80 million people into these impoverished nations. We could take 5 million a year, but we'd never get ahead of what's happening in these countries. Not in this century. Don't you see? Immigration can never be an effective or significant way to deal with the suffering people of the world.
I'm speechless, bro. Yo, and that takes a lot for me to be speechless. Looking at chat. Jacine Corday. Sorry if I say that butcher. Thank you so much for speaking on this reality. You speak the truth 100%. The people of the U.S. needs to get a clue. And the professor, I'm really glad that he took the time to show and demonstrate like this. Yo, yeah, that demonstration crazy, bro. That's reality right there. That's crazy. This is reality. Like,
they have to be helped where they live. 99.9% of them will never be able to immigrate to a rich country. There's no hope for them. Ooh. They have to bloom where they're planted. The only place that 99.9% of these people can be helped is where they live. Let's help them there.
That was a good video. Like, that's a video I had to show from beginning to end. And don't worry, I'll have all those videos in the link in the description after this live stream. But wow, way to put the immigration problem in perspective. My goodness. I wish if college, like, I would have no problem with college if they taught and demonstrate their ideas just like that. Empirical evidence. Here's the proof. Here's the facts. Here's how it actually is. Here's the reality. All right. Because if you operate with good information, you can create good solutions. But just like in math, if you have the wrong assumptions about the formula and how to solve the problem, you'll reach a wrong conclusion. And that's what's going on in our politics. This is what's hurting America culture, Western culture, whether you're in the UK or America. This is what's hurting us. We're operating off of false information, false assumptions. We're operating on looking good than actually the reality of being good. So I'm going into another segment, right? And this one is just going to be a couple minutes. Judge Joe Brown, and he's going to explain why we glorify dysfunction as a society. This is another reason why Western civilization is hurting itself. We glorify dysfunction. The dumbest thing, the dumber the thing is, the more we glorify it. If I told you, hey, I spend 5 bands on a Gucci shirt, and one person tell you, hey, I spent 5 bands in an investment account, our culture will praise which person? The person that spent 5 bands on a Gucci shirt. And the other person will look at them like, hey, man, you crazy. But before I go into the video, Jonathan Field says, hey, Kenny, already liked your video. I'm at work now. We'll be here until 10 to 3 or 3 to 11. You doing double, bro? Hey, appreciate you for watching. I'll watch the stream later. Have a good night. And God bless you too as well, Jonathan Fields. Hope the job is treating you okay. So let's get into the video. Why we glorify dysfunction. Let's get into it.
I got
and I'm an independent now. I can't stand the Democratic Party.
Really?
Today.
What happened? What caused you to change?
They decided to be anti-family and anti-man, and I don't buy into that.
Has it always been like that?
No, it wasn't. Something happened. They kind of got stuck over there in that far left corner someplace, and they forgot about the working people in this country.
When do you think that happened, Judge? Because you ran as a Democrat. Now you're independent.
I did. It bothers me. Somewhere in the last 55 years, what's happened is the country is switched over into glorifying what I call dysfunction. And at some point, it's just enough is enough.
Yeah, we are glorifying dysfunction, right? We look at culture. Or Andrew Breitbart said it. Politics is downstream from culture. So whatever the culture is, that's what the political people will cater to. If we have a culture where we believe a man can cut off his you know what, put on some makeup, maybe do some facial plastic surgery, and he could pretend to be a woman, and we're supposed to believe that he could be a woman legitimately, then you get politicians like Gavin Newsom, who's going to be like, oh, why can't you let people live? Oh, suicide ideation. But if you look at the proof, these people still commit suicide at a large rate. This is not helping them, right? It's like going along with a delusion. And eventually, reality going to smack you in the face. All you effectively did to that man who was pretending to be a woman who went to cut off his you-know-what, you sterilized him. That's all you did. You practiced another form of eugenics. That's all you did with this transgender stuff. You mess with a woman's hormones where she can't even breastfeed anymore. She possibly can never give birth again. She harmed her body beyond repair to the point where she needs to go into multiple surgeries to correct the previous conditions. Essentially, you become a walking money bag for the medical institutions. But no one wants to call out this conflict of interest. This is how culture kills itself. A house divided cannot stand. This is where one of my biggest arguments, and this is why I think being proud about your race is superficial. Because someone can have the same race as you. Two people can be black, but I'm Haitian. The other person is Nigerian, Sudanese, Somalian, from Sudan, Sudanese, I think I said that right. Hopefully I said that right. And we all have different cultures. We all look at the world a different way, but we're all black. It's the same thing with America. Hey, I'm black American. I'm born in this country, first generation American. All my life I've been educated in the school system. I've been taught American history because this is my country. If I go to Haiti, people gonna look at me like, oh, look at the American. They ain't gonna say, oh, my brother. No, they're not gonna do that. Sapase, my boule. No, they're not gonna do that. They're gonna be like, oh, that's an American. And that's the reality. Like, we need to stop all this superficial ish because all it means is divide and conquer. Kings done it all the time. Let's separate the people. Let's separate the peasant class. So they're too busy fighting amongst themselves to actually look at us and hold us accountable and not realize that they have power. Hitler said it best. He warned y'all too. Hitler was like, oh, how convenient for its government that its people is dumb or foolish. I forgot the quote, but it's I'm paraphrasing, but that's the sentiment. He said the government is lucky that its people is foolish. And this is what we're doing. We're defending ideas. We're defending a culture. We're defending dumb ass ish. Oops, I cursed. That doesn't make sense in reality, to the point where the Daily Wire is making a show that I'm gonna watch at 8 p.m. I hope you guys are gonna watch it too. It's called Lady Ballers. They're getting offended that you're making fun and mocking the idea and the concept that a man can become a woman. That a man can pretend to be a girl for a year and get praised for it. I digress. Hey, let's get back into it. Glorifying dysfunction.
You've got a thing right now where they're trying to groom children in school. They're trying to install a secular religion as the official religion of the country. People don't have any cause, any purpose anymore, so they want to give them one. But in this one, it says you have no duty, honor, obligation, responsibility, accountability. Be what the hell you want to be. Just get your freak on, and there you go. But that's not sufficient to keep people working.
Now, when you say 55 years, is it probably closer to the last 15 years that it's been?
No, it's been working. See, I remember the class at UCLA 1969, and I remember what was being said back then when people said we hate men for one reason or another, and men are the cause of war, so we're going to ruin this thing for the men and get rid of masculinity. And you had this problem with Hollywood when it was going broke in the face of color television, and you switched from 2 movies every Thursday and Sunday every week of the year, and Hollywood was going broke, so they said, let's ramp the fee up from 50 cents to $1.50, and we will have one movie that stays in as long as we can, so let's attract the most people by going to the lowest common denominator, promoting dysfunction, ridiculousness, and
I want to give you guys an exercise when you're done. Hopefully this stays in your mind. But if you look at the type of stuff that we listened to in the 1960s, how people were in the 1960s, compare them to how we are now, and that's the effect of culture. If you have a culture that's said, hey, you have to strive for excellence. We don't praise mediocrity here. You want to get praised when you do something successful, when you do something actually good. Now in this culture we live in, we value self-esteem. Oh, you perfect the way you are. And all you're signaling to the person is you don't need to change. If you fail at something, it's not your fault. It's not you need to get better. It's the system needs to change to accommodate you. Because you're perfect. You're perfect just the way you are. That's what the culture has put into our society today, where no one wants to improve. No one wants to make sacrifices anymore. People got 6 figures in student loan debt, and instead of being like, okay, how can I get myself out of it? They're like, nah, I don't want to pay for it. The government should pay for it. The taxpayers who lent me the money should also pay the money for me, even though they didn't benefit at all from the interaction. I benefited from it completely. Essentially viewing the government like your mom, like your parents. And that's the reality of what's going on. The government does not treat us like adults. They do not treat us like citizens. They treat us like children. The Democrats act like your mom, babying you. Anything that happens to you, oh, don't worry, baby, I'll take care of it. Coddling you, enabling you. And that's what's going on in our culture today. And this is why I blame liberalism for the destruction of the Western civilization. Right? They're the ones that wasn't patriotic. They're the one that made fun of conservatives. Oh, you want to actually abide by tradition? You want to conform to traditional? I'm not a traditional male. I'm a nonconformist in the wrong ways. Instead of seeing the value in the tradition, hey, this is a timeless, time-proven, time-tested idea. It's here for a reason. It survived centuries. It's been this way for centuries. That means this thing worked for centuries. And instead of respecting that, liberals said, nah, we don't need that anymore. For all of human history, we knew what a man was. Now in 2023, we question it. For what? Because the liberals have a need to criticize tradition. They don't like tradition. They don't like standards. Right? They don't like to be confined. But what happens when something's not confined? Anything can come in. It's like a wall. It's like Jordan Peterson. I'm going to steal this from Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson has a concept that perfectly describes conservatism. Freedom with constraint. Right? If I put you in a box, you have an area where you can freely do whatever you want in that box. Right? It's called boundaries. And the minute I touch the boundary, that's someone else's. Right? You know, my rights end where another person's begins. So as a conservative, I understand that if I decide to identify myself as Goku, and I say, hey, I'm Goku, I'm a Super Saiyan. I identify as a Super Saiyan. So you must call me Super Saiyan Goku. And you go and you like, you ain't Goku. That's your right to say, and that's my right to say that I'm Goku. But this is where I cross your boundary. If I demand, hey, you must call me Goku. If not, you're a bigot. And I'm gonna tell these politicians to legislate where the very act of you not confirming or validating my self-perception will throw you in jail. That's when I cross the line. That's when conservatives says, you're not allowed to do that. You cross a boundary there. You're trying to force people to do something that's not in their free will. Liberals believe you should be able to do that. Government should be the number one supporter. It's like your mom. I tell you, if you look at liberalism like your mom, it makes perfect sense. What happens when you don't share with your little brother? What happens when you build the treehouse in your backyard and you don't let your little brother play because you don't let your little brother play in it because he didn't help you build it? What are you going to do? Run to mama. And what mama's going to do? Share with your brother. But look, my little bro didn't help me build it, mom. How are you going to let him benefit off of my treehouse when he didn't even help me build it? That don't sound like Democrats to you? That don't sound like the Democratic Party? Glorifying dysfunction. But let's get back into the video. I want to give this video 2 more minutes and then we'll get into the main event.
Meanwhile, we can propagandize the country to get rid of manhood. And that basically is what's been happening.
And by the way, these are some of the topics I got that I want to talk about today. One is family, feminism, manhood, politics over the last 50, 60 years, fatherless homes, statistics I have on how many single mothers we used to have in the 40s versus 60s today, LBJ's policies in 1965. Maybe you have some thoughts on that, on what changed when he came out with that. And then we got destruction of the black family, masculinity, LGBTQ, and a few other things. War on drugs, a little bit of that with Nixon. Was that a good thing? Did they choose the right enemy? Michelle Obama, Kamala Harris, Trump, Biden, and maybe a little bit of San Francisco cleaning up the streets this quickly. They got this new technology called G. G shows up, streets of San Francisco clean up very quickly. So let's go to the direction you were going.
Imagine that. A foreign leader comes into your country, it's dirty the entire time. That means the leadership class has no respect for its citizenry. Where it's dirty, oh, you see it's dirty, it's fine. But the minute some foreigner comes in, oh, we got to clean up the streets. This is how Western culture is hurting itself, man. Self-inflicted wounds, bro. The founding fathers are right. Hey, it's a republic if you can keep it. The enemy found it. Hey, the only way we beating America is we make them beat themselves. And once I believe if we can get a majority of Americans to realize this, that hey, you may be a liberal, I may be a conservative, but end of the day, our shared interest is keeping this place being the best place in the world where we both can exist. We both get a benefit from being a part of America. And whatever's the best course for America is the decisions we pull into. A political philosophy is not supposed to define you. It's supposed to guide you. I agree with that. Your political philosophy guides you, but it does not define you. Therefore, if the evidence, the reality shows you, hey, look, your theory's wrong, Kenny, right? Freedom can't exist without constraints. All right. But human nature shows me when you give people unbridled, unrestrained liberty, it's chaos. No order, no structure. But if you got too much structure, it's tyranny, right? That's what Jordan Peterson articulates it. And right now, does our culture look like it's structured, regimented, practical? No, it's chaotic, vague. You don't even know. You don't even know where the line is. I'm telling you, it baffles me. So we're gonna go into the main event, and I will spend the rest of the stream talking about how the liberalism debate, Marxism's subversion of liberal ideas, and I believe liberalism was the biggest thing that allowed Marxism, this cultural Marxism, whatever you want to define it, to infect our institutions, our education, our culture. And this is why you get these crazy people who think that truth is relative, not objective, relative.
I think what they do is they say, right, okay.
If everything's relative, then it just becomes a game of power. I have the power, therefore this is the truth. Everyone's subjected to my truth because I have the power. It becomes a game of a hot potato. I have the power, then therefore I make the rules. You have the power, therefore. But if it's objective, that means it doesn't matter. We all play under one foundation. And that's what they don't want. And this is what liberalism has opened the door to. But I digress. Let's get into it. It's going to be a debate about liberalism. Can it survive Marxist wokeism? How Marxists use liberalism as a skin suit to push their agenda and take over our education and institutions such as college, university. I digress. Let's get into the video.
We have these values, and we recognize that you value those too. And actually, we aren't satisfied about trying to get harmonious balance. We want to bring them to their full apotheosis. If you don't bring them to their full apotheosis, you're falling short of your potential. And actually, we're just more honest than better than you. And I'm not satisfied yet as to how you stop them driving towards that absolute.
And that's how the Marxists win all of the arguments against the liberals as well. Like I actually see Novara Media posting this quite a lot of the time. When the Conservative Party want to do something that is illiberal, they go, well, are we liberals or are we not? It's like, but you're a communist. And you're a public communist. But also you recognize that liberalism is the method by which to achieve this communism because of the shared set of values that liberalism has. And so if the liberals appear to abandon freedom or equality, then the communists know that everything they want is off the table. So they see this is a method to get to where they want to go. Hang on a sec. And the problem, I think, fundamentally with the idea of being a conservative liberal is that you are just a conservative at this point, right? Because that's why the classical liberals are the Tories and everyone else is the Labour Party and the left.
So I don't understand much about British politics, but the abstract point about how liberalism it seeks to have harmony with everything. Oh, all cultures are equal. Conservatives will say nope, not all cultures are equal, because as conservatives we believe in competition, we believe in meritocracy, we believe in competence, we believe in results and ability. If you don't have the ability, you ain't making the team. Sorry. A liberal will say everyone should have a spot in the team. Conservatives like, no, that's not practical. There must be 5 players on that court, and we want to put five of the best. A liberal will see that and be like, oh, we need to have representation. We have to have diversity and equity. And the conservatives are gonna be like, what's about the results? Let's put the 5 best players. They're not worried about superficial stuff. But don't you think it's not fair that 74% of your team is black? Shouldn't we have equal representation on the basketball court? Right? That's what liberals care about. They care about superficial stuff. They care about what things ought to be, instead of accepting what reality is. The reality is, here's the result. 74% of the time, the best players on the basketball team will be black. That's the reality. That's the evidence. Your theories do not stand in reality, because if I put a team of 74, if I put the team and the team is 74% black, and you pick a team based on their diversity score, they'll lose to the team by 40 points. If a group of women play against a group of men, I'm putting all my money, I'm putting my house, I'm putting my life savings on the men, and I'll be comfortable doing it. Because 9 times out of 10, the men will win that game. Am I lying? Because as a conservative, you focus on empirical evidence. You don't focus on rationalism. Rationalism is only good at things that cannot be proven or denied. That's it. But everything else, science, results, if you test your theory in reality and reality shows you your theory is wrong, a conservative will concede that their theory is wrong, but not a liberal. A liberal will be like, there's a different way to do it then. And it may be very well be the case. But the liberal has to understand that there's some things that are timeless. Human nature, the condition of being a human being. Human beings only have 2 genders. That's never changing. Human beings cannot live forever, at least not unaided anyway. It baffles me that liberals can sit here and try to challenge timeless wisdom, timeless ideas, timeless knowledge that's been here since the age of time. And they think of an idea that's only 15 years old, 5 years old, and they think they found something revolutionary. Baffling to me. Let's continue with the video.
Because there's a kind of inherent dialectic in leftism that drives everything to this particular point of extreme abstraction. And so you have been folded into the right because you've got nowhere else to go, because there's a sort of a cutting edge of liberal philosophy that is still scything away, and it's gone past you. And so now you're like, okay, but I want to get back to where I thought things ought to be. But the thing is still going, and it's still getting more and more ridiculous, right? And so
here's the idea. Liberalism loves new ideas. Conservatives prefer time-proven old ideas, durable ideas, things that's been proven, practical, right? That's why the conservatives get the label of being less innovative. But I say conservatives are just more skeptical. Okay, prove your idea can work. And if you can prove it to me, we'll adopt it. And guess what? Conservatives are very good at preserving ideas, defending ideas, transmitting ideas to their next generation. This is why conservatives believe in having kids. This is why conservatives believe in marriage, because we see that as the best way of transmitting our values to the next generation. How liberals are going to transmit their values to the next generation? All the liberals going to put in is your right to do whatever you want. Unconstrained knowledge, unconstrained questions. While conservatives believe, hey, my reasoning must be guided. And usually we use reality. Usually we use empirical evidence. Empiricism. Hey, I have a theory. I have to test it. And if whatever the test says, that's what I'm going to follow. The test say, hey, that's a good idea. Can you keep doing that? I'm going to keep doing it. If I find the results are not favorable to me, I'm going to stop doing it. Well, what a liberal has? Atheism, humanism, everything that's subjective. They make up the rules as they go along. And this is how you get idealistic dogma. A liberal only believes that everyone has a right to be a liberal and nothing else. That's the liberal philosophy. Because they think they're so much smarter than you. Oh, you still believe in God? Oh, God is dead. How you know? Whatever rationalism you come up with, you cannot prove that God doesn't exist. You can't even prove how you got here. All you making is foolhardy assumptions that you have no really solid proof to back up that it is exactly how your theory purported to be. How can a design exist without a designer? That don't make sense to me, because we all know we're here because we have two parents, and our two parents came from someone else. So if you go by that pattern, or pattern recognition, if you go by that pattern, can I assume that there's a source where we all come from? And that's what we're debating about, the source. I say there's a creator. An atheist will say aliens. They're more likely to believe in aliens. Okay, what proof you have is aliens? There's no way we could be the only life on in this whole entire galaxy. Well, you haven't found the proof of that. That's just an assumption. Right? And this is why the liberals come up with this smug look. Oh, I have assumed credibility. Makes no sense. But I digress. Let's get back into the video.
The argument has been lost by the classical liberals on that.
I agree with a very large extent with what you're saying, but I think there is something that is missing. And that is the dialectic, if you would like, between utopian thinking in politics, which will always, the pure ideological purists will always tell the actual practitioners of doctrines, you're forgetting your values. Yes. You're forgetting your values. So that's what I think it happens. And it reminds me of Aristotle, as he was saying that in politics, there are all sorts of levels at which we can make evaluative judgments. There's the ideal. There is the ideal in the circumstances. And then when you see that politics is not as good as that, you see that there's a good thing to do in the circumstances. So what you're describing, I fully agree. I fully agree with respect to the idea that there is an inner logic in driving things that way intellectually. But I disagree with respect to losing the argument there, because what you can do when people constantly talk about utopian ideas, you can show them at failed experiments. And actually, 100 years ago, there weren't so many failed experiments. But there are.
But this is why they would say, well, that wasn't real communism, right? Because it didn't manifest the ideal in reality. And therefore the ideal is still untouched.
Yes. And socialists, oh my God, socialists do this the most. When you say, oh, Hitler was a socialist. No, he wasn't. That wasn't real socialism. Okay, what is real socialism? Because and this is my argument as a conservative, every self-proclaimed socialist that attempted to usher in the real socialism has failed. So what makes you think that your version of socialism is the real socialism? You see, I can use it against them. But this is how they get away with having to test their theories in reality, for them to accept the results of their test. They test their theory. Hey, government can be centrally control and make decisions on behalf of millions and billions of people, and it'll be the most efficient, most successful system in the world. And it failed at being that. It caused more poverty. It hindered more people's rights. It was objectively worse for people than capitalism. Failed. It crumbled under its own weight, because it's impossible for one individual to make decisions and be competent in every field and every little transaction. There's millions of transactions that happen. And you expect this person with limited knowledge to speak on behalf of everyone else, or a small group of people to do what's in the best interest of everyone else. A general one-size-fit-all for 50 million unique individuals. That you think this one size fit all will work for everybody. Nah, everyone has a right to try out, but not everyone has the right to make the team. AKA, hey, everyone should have the same conditions, the same rules apply to them. And that's the only thing the government can guarantee. It can't guarantee an outcome. And that's the reality that a lot of liberals do not want to admit when it comes to immigration, when it comes to culture, that yes, everyone can create a culture. Yes, people can migrate here, but not every migrant is going to have the same result, the same outcome. And because there's a disparity in outcomes, they call, oh, it's unfair. That's the ideal. Oh, we want you to make everything fair. What is fair? Fair to the results of your own abilities? That seems fair to me. But if the results of my abilities make me a millionaire and the results of your abilities make you barely having a living wage, you're going to say that's unfair. But I'm going to say that's fair because my skills are valued at this, and therefore I deserve to have the fruits of my labor. And you deserve to have the fruits of your labor. That seems fair to me. But you're mad that you're eating an apple and I'm eating caviar. And because you have that resentment that for some reason you wasn't able to produce the results that you wanted and I was, now you believe that I should be taxed 90% so that way you can have what I have. Or at least I'm eating apples just like you're eating apples. That's the logic of socialism. Socialist, communist. All things in common. Because they know if I had to pillage, if they had to work for their own living, they know there's going to be disparities. And that's what they hate. Socialists, communists, it's an ideological, political philosophy that's based in envy. That's the reality. I'll argue this against anybody. Socialism is based on envy. When socialists come here and call me a capitalist pig, I'm going to call them a thieving looter. Because that's what a socialist is, a looter. They don't believe in private property. They don't believe all this. Look, this lighting, this camera, this channel, it's mine. I built this. It wouldn't exist without me. But because it exists now, a socialist will be like, oh, that's our channel now. That's our mic. This is our setup. No, you didn't contribute no money. Your face is not even on this channel. Why you have to have lay claim to my channel? Oh, I'm interacting with it, and therefore it must serve the public good. AKA a pretext so I can loot your stuff from you. That's what a socialist is. A glorified thief. And they wonder why their political ideology don't work. That's the utopia. That's the abstract ideal. That's the ideal. Everyone's going to have things in common. It's going to work out just fine. And then when you practice it in reality, it's a shit show. But they do not want to call it quits. Why? Because they just want power. They just want to loot from you. They want to take from them haves and give it to the have-nots. Usually it themselves. And you can't trust somebody like that with power. Human nature. Socialist only guarantees absolute power, and we don't know what absolute power does. It corrupts absolutely. I digress. Let's get back into the video. 2 more minutes, and then I'll start wrapping up the stream.
The ideal remains, and the thing is, the ideal will always remain untouched. Because of course, the ideal will never be manifested in the real world.
But a key part of the argument, and I'll stop. Sorry. The key part of the argument here, and that's fun because it takes us to something that was said in the beginning, is that one of the reasons why they say it is because they would say that if you look at the actual trajectory of communist regimes, you won't see them developing in industrial countries. You will see them developing in primarily agricultural economies. Yeah. That is why they say it didn't happen as Marx promised. Yeah. So the fact that it didn't happen as such, it happened in other ways, means that the actual experiment, the socialist experiment, wasn't tried. By the way, just say that communism is the end state. So just saying communism hasn't already been tried is just like saying we haven't reached what the communists are saying utopia. Yeah, so we could say actual socialism.
Can I follow up on why I think actually liberalism accelerates this dialectic? I think there is a utopian strain in liberalism in its presumption of the universality of man.
Yep. Everything's universal. Women and men are the same, right? What a woman can do, what a man can do, a woman can do just as good, or if not better. There's no inherent advantages from one person to the other. Everything, all disparities in society is due to social engineering. A liberal is more likely to believe that. A conservative is more likely to believe it's a little bit of both nature and your nurture, right? your inherent genetic code, right? That influences what you can do in reality, and your upbringing that help you leverage those skills, leverage those inherent talents, right? Because end of the day, we as conservatives, you believe your creator endowed you with different talents, and with your different talents, you can take advantage of different opportunities. If I'm a short player that's good at chess, my talent may not be suited to play basketball, but it could be suited to play chess, intellectual stuff. And if I'm a big burling 6'8", 250, run like a gazelle, maybe my talents will probably better serve me playing sports than it does in academics. Conservatives acknowledge that, but liberals don't like to acknowledge that reality. They don't like to acknowledge that people inherently have an advantage due to either their genetics or their upbringing. They believe everyone could be just the same if we just all was given the same cards. But that spits in the face of human nature. We're all unique. We're so unique that there will be never another me in this world again. Unique DNA, one that will never come before and never will come after. That's how unique every single individual, if the sound of my voice, is. That there will never be another one like you before or after. And you believe people who are inherently unique in this way, you believe that you can give them all the same advantages, the same opportunities. You can cater everything exactly the same, so that way there's equality throughout all. That's an impractical dream. That's a fantasy. Do not suffer from imagination, but suffer from reality. And the reality is there are always going to be disproportional outcomes for different reasons. Now, we can try to minimize it for things that people cannot control, like your sex, your skin color. We try to create laws that don't discriminate you or don't deny you opportunities. But we cannot guarantee you outcomes. And this is what liberalism fails to understand. It has this idealistic notion that we can equalize outcomes for unique human beings. The insanity. But this is what they pursue. This is their ideal. And the Marxists know this. This is why they come in and they pretend that they're liberals. I'm a liberal. Oh, I want social change. Oh, look at racial disparities. Oh, look at the racial disparities. It's happening because you're black. No, it's happening because these happen to be the poorest people in the community. This happens to be the least educated people in the community. This happens to be the people that don't invest in education as much as other groups of people, and this is why they're falling behind. This is the reason for the disparity. It's due to their own behaviors and their ability to take advantage of opportunity. That's why they're in the positions they're at. But the liberals think they have an obligation to equalize that for them, to work on other people's behalf, when that's not the case. It's the same thing with mass immigration. Oh, these people are living in poverty, only making $2 a day. We can give them a better life here. Let's bring them over here so they can get a better life. Hey, that's impractical, liberal. You're going to worsen our own system. You're going to put a burden on our own system. All you have to do is ask New York, ask Boston, ask all these sanctuary cities that finally got to live up to their claim. Oh, I'm a sanctuary city. Okay, here's the migrants. Oh my God, they're burning our system. Our system is overrun. Or we have to cut spending. We have to make budget changes to accommodate the migrants. You got a little taste of what Texas get. You got a little taste of what Arizona gets. And you already crumbling. Imagine if more people go through the border. These people cannot sustain themselves. Therefore, you have to sustain them. End of the day, you feed a man a fish, you feed him for a day. You teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. AKA, hey, the best way you can fix problems is if you give the people the ability and tools to help themselves. That's it. That's the only thing the government should do. And it's the only effective way of actually fixing problems. That's how you get to the core root of problems. First principles. Liberalism only fixes symptoms. It doesn't fix problems. I digress. Enough with my rant. Let's go. One more minute for the video.
And it's founded in part in the anthropologically incorrect foundation myth that we talked about before, with the state of nature. But this is something that's often expressed. I think using Angela Merkel here is actually a good idea. Douglas Murray's written about this, and so has Eric Kaufman. Back when there was a mass influx of asylum seekers, back in about 2014, she was telling the German people to adopt a yes we can mentality, because otherwise we won't achieve, and this was a near direct quote, universal human rights in the kind of Europe we dream of. And the point is, by valuing progress, as you've said you yourself do, and again, different definitions of progress from historicists. I think you value as well. I don't. I actually don't, though. Valuing progress and valuing kind of universality unmoored from a religious tradition that has a foundation for it. What you do is you drive towards bringing freedom and equality into universal fruition. And so that means that, again, the Marxists have another angle of attack of saying, well, actually, you're not progressing fast enough and it's not universal enough. So you should accelerate the logic that liberalism itself holds. I think that's almost like the fuel in the engine. You know, that's another worry that I have.
I have a quick question just about universalism.
And I think I'm gonna leave it there. But as always, I leave the full videos. I'm like, as soon as I'm done with the stream, I'll have these videos in the link in the description. But to tie it all up, I believe how Western Western culture is hurting itself is that through liberalism, it allows all these people who political philosophy is counter to what America was founded on. America was founded on it never being a socialist country. So when you get an ideology that wants socialism, right, the progressives, the Marxists, right, they use liberalism as their inch. And we all know the saying, if they take an inch, they take a whole effing mile. And this is what's going on in our country today. From the 1959s, these communists were saying, hey, don't worry, you may not accept communism, but your children's children will, because we'll give them so little doses of socialism, eventually you don't even realize that you're already living in a communist country. That is the plan of the Marxists, right? But if let's say we had a conservative republic, a conservative world order, this probably wouldn't happen, because we'll be like, no, that sounds like a stupid idea. We tried this 30 freaking times. No, because conservatives are willing to be somewhat the bad guy. Liberals hate being perceived as the bad guy. And this is how Marxists subvert them and get them to walk along their agenda. Because, hey, you're not liberal enough. Hey, you're not making enough progress. Because liberals are caring about being liked. And this is what allowed Western civilization, Western culture to be on this path of ruin and self-destruction. We got to take those from Elon. Elon says, hey, it's okay not to be liked. That's a weakness. And I think that's a weakness that American Western culture needs to cut itself away from. This need to be liked. We need to be unapologetically Western civilization. Unapologetically British. Unapologetically American. Because we have done more for the world. We have done more, if we done a lot, if not more, than most of these world powers not put together, but we made significant contributions to the world. Poverty, right? Charity, extending human rights. Because human rights, to me, it's an opportunity to do something, not giving an outcome. Right? And I think this gets lost in translation too many times. But hey, I digress. Thank you so much for watching. I've really been trying a new format. I really wanted to try to keep things more concise. I think I could tend to get on tangents, but I finally met my time for the first time in history, guys. So I really appreciate you guys for watching. I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. I hope you guys had a good week wherever you may be. I appreciate you guys for watching the live stream. Come back later and I'll have timestamps for you guys. I'll have the videos in the link in the descriptions. Go check out Lady Ballers. I'm about to watch that in about 37 minutes after I put my kids to sleep. So I probably might do a video on it on Monday to give my recap and my reaction to Lady Ballers. I wonder how many of you guys are going to watch it. Let me know in the comment section below. I really do appreciate you guys for watching the live stream. I appreciate you for having me. Don't forget to like the video on your way in or out. If you're part of the replay gang, I really appreciate you guys watching. Leave a comment in the comment section below what you guys like the most about the live stream. And I'll catch you guys next week with Live with Kenny. Peace.